Hey Stampers, Diane Dimich here with ddstamps.com, and today I'm going to show you a really fun way to color in this using watercolor. The From the Herd stamp set. This is a really cute card, and I even stamped the inside, made that really cute. So let's get started. To begin with, I used the From the Herd stamp set. This is in Stampin' Up's Occasions mini catalog. This is available until June 2nd. It may or may not show up in next year's catalog. I'm hoping it shows up because I just think this is adorable. Now, one of the things that kind of frustrated me was I loved this coloring it with blendabilities, but it did take a lot of time. And this weekend, I spent a little time watercoloring with it and found out an easy way to do this, which doesn't take a lot of time. So to begin with, we're going to start with that animal stamp and our Versamark ink. And I'm going to go ahead and add Versamark ink to the top of this stamp. Get it all good and inked. I am going to come in with my embossing buddy and just go ahead and put some embossing buddy on there. So that will just get rid of the cling, the static. And then I'm going to go ahead and stamp this stamp down. And you want to make sure that you get good pressure because you want to make sure that all that Versamark ink transfers to the watercolor paper. And then you're going to sprinkle this with black embossing powder. I am going to get a sheet of paper to stick under here before I have a huge mess. This way it'll capture all my flyaway embossing powder. Oops, good thing I did that, huh? I don't really want to get embossing powder into my markers. So there you go. Once you've got that done, you're going to make sure that you got them all. And then heat set it to melt that embossing. Okay, once I have that heat embossed, you can go ahead and see that it just gives it's a nice, great, fine image. And these have little channels in them to help keep the water when I watercolor into the areas that I want the color. So I'm going to go ahead and dump all this black embossing powder back in there. And try to brush this off because I really don't want that into my markers. So clean up that little area. As you can see, I've got lots of different markers out here. I just grabbed a bunch of different colors. This is just a really easy way to watercolor. And you're going to go ahead and use an aqua painter, which these come in sets of 2. This is actually the finer brush of the 2. You're going to go ahead and get that wet. And I'm going to start with the pig here. And I'm going to start with my lightest color pink. And I'm using an acrylic block as my palette. So you can't really see, but I'm putting color right onto that acrylic block. And then I'm going to go ahead and get my pig wet to begin with. I always start with the image that I'm watercoloring wet, and then when I come in with the color, you can see, and then it starts to bleed. And just making sure that I get the color onto that pig. Let's get his nose. I'm going to keep their eyes, try to keep their eyes white on all the animals so that they really show. So there's the pig painted. Once you're done with that, you're going to take just another piece of scratch paper, and I'm just going to use this one that I had embossing powder on, and you just color on a piece of paper until that's gone. And then this, I can go ahead and take the ink off that, and this time I'm going to come in with the yellow, and I'm actually doing one color of each. That might be able to show up. One color of each. Using the lightest, so I'm going to start with the bird here, and we'll just add some water to the bird. And then pick up the paint, or the ink color, and go ahead and put, and what happens is that the water that's already in the bird with the ink color, it just kind of blends itself out and just makes it really quick to color it in. And you don't have to stay in the lines because it's watercolor, so it's not necessary to stay in the lines. And then wipe off that color, and this time I'm going to come in and do the goat. So I'll add some gray color in my goat. And this time I'm coming in with a little bit of crumb cake. and we'll color in the llama. And then we'll do the chocolate chip. So there's your first color down. I'm going to go ahead and come in with a little bit of the cherry cobbler, and I'm just going to add it to the bird. This goofy little bird up here. We'll make him red so he stands out. And then just a little bit of Calypso Coral is going to add into his beak. There we go. Now, once you've done that, what you want to do is you want to make sure, clean that off, you want to make sure that it's all dry. And it dries fairly quickly because you're just using just a little bit. Then you're going to come in and just do a little bit of shading. So on the pig, this time I am using Blushing Bride. I'm going to put it on the watercolor paper, so hopefully you'll be able to see where the ink gets in there. And again, I'm going to wet it a little bit and then come in with that darker pink color and just do a little bit of shading. And you end up with a fun card that really doesn't take very long to shade and make. And then I'm going to use a little bit of crushed curry to come in on the bird, and let's just make that bird just a little bit darker in some spots. And Stampin' Up! Actually does shading lines on their stamps, and so you can actually just follow their lead and put a little bit more color where. And flip that over. This time I'm coming in, I keep using the wrong end, coming in with the basic gray. And this basic gray of mine is really dry, but it's going to work fine for this goat because it's just going to bring in just a little bit more shading into his fur. And you just, like I said, you don't need a whole lot. And then the llama, we used crumb cake, and this time we're just going to add a little bit of saffron. So I'm just going to go ahead and get him a little wet where he would be darker, and then bring in that darker shade. Quick, though. How fun is that? And every card's going to look different because every card's going to look like you hand did it. Last but not least, I used chocolate chip on the buffalo, and this time I'm going to come in with Cajun Craze and make parts of him a little redder. So I'm going to add some water to this fur here on the top of his body. And then this hair piece he's got going on here. And I'm just going to come in with a little bit of red, and it'll kind of blend itself around. And then make his hair piece red. But that embossing kind of holds the color into the areas that you want it. Not totally, it goes out of the lines in some places. And then his little nose, I'm just going to bring in, I'll just blend that out. There. Anyway, show you how you can do it. It's very quick, it's very easy. Fun, fast way to watercolor. Now what I did with this particular card is I brought in my on film framelits, and that's what I'm actually going to use to cut that out. That'll be the inside of my picture. But before I do that, I'm going to take another piece of Whisper White, and I'm actually going to lay this down here because I want this to be the frame. But I want to know exactly where this is going to cut, and so I'm just making some little pencil lines so that I can see where that's going to be. And then I can come in with the happy birthday stamp from that same set. Oops. If you want to get them straight, it's sometimes best to just put them onto your mat and then pick it up on your acrylic block. Go ahead and ink this up. And I know that it's going to be in between that piece. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp Happy Birthday. And then when I lay this into my Big Shot and cut it out, I'm going to get that Happy Birthday down into the texture of that framelit. The framelit has just a bit of texture at the bottom of it, and with the magnetic platform I can actually line that right back up where my pencil lines were. And then lay this down, run it through the Big Shot. We've got our Polaroid frame. Ready to go. Pull this out. And then you can just see how it's textured. I don't know if you can see that, but then where the Happy Birthday is, it has the texture of the Polaroid frame. And then we're going to go ahead and lay this down, and we're going to take that framelit again, because this time we're just cutting out. Oh, I forgot to do one thing. I'm going to do that because it makes a difference in the whole project. Before I cut that out. Actually, I could do it after I cut it out, but I'm going to do it before. So I actually forgot to do the sky and the grass. So let's go back in, add water to wherever the grass is. And I'm just adding water in there. And then again, with the acrylics, I'm going to come in. This time I'm going to use certainly celery. And pick up that, and just go ahead and brush that in where the grass would be. And that will kind of smear out and look totally watercolored. It's a very light color. And then I'm going to do the upper layer in a little pool party. No, this is actually I should use pool party. Pool party. And I'm just going to go where the sky would be. And add some water. And then come in with that pool party, and you can see how it bleeds out. If you want darker color, you just need to add more color. Not so much water. I got a little carried away with the water on that one. Pick up a little more ink. You could do this with your ink pads, but I like the fact that I had lots of different markers, colors, and so ink pads or marker colors work with this technique. There we go. I feel better now. So once you've done that, then you're going to take your framelit and you're going to go ahead and line that up where you want it to be cut out. It's going to cut it out, and that's going to get, excuse me, placed onto your card. What I would do is I would place the square first and then place this over it, because it looks like I had just a little bit crooked. But if you attach your watercolor piece to your cardstock, and then this will fit that piece right over the top of it, and add that with adhesive, and then it's perfect. Anyway, really fun technique. I hope you'd give it a try. Thanks, and have a great day.